But moving on, let's go back to the spec sheet here and let's talk about the controllers. You've made a big list of stuff here, Oliver.
Yeah, maybe we should get through that
Talk
a
me
little bit
through
quickly. So basically, the kind of highlight here, I would think, is that C button functionality. So apparently that C button stands for chat, and you can enable this kind of chat mode, this communication mode, where you can kind of engage with other players, other viewers, do some kind of like live streaming thing, do some picture-in-picture functionality. The quality of that picture-in-picture functionality isn't great. The streaming video quality isn't so great, but it is an interesting feature. It does seem like it's going to be exclusive to games that are updated for Switch 2 or that have bespoke Switch 2 versions here. But it seems like an interesting feature for multiplayer play. They also highlighted the fact that you're going to be able to use the built-in mic there for communications, which seems probably like it would be okay for handheld play, but I would be really concerned about that for docked play, especially if it's sitting close to a television. And they also showed off a camera attachment, but that's quite a lot of stuff. I don't know if you guys had any impressions of that material, but that seems like one of Nintendo's kind of key gimmicks for the Switch 2, this new chat Discord functionality thing.
I loved it. I thought it was a really good idea. What can I say? The only there's a couple of things that are slightly problematic. Probably not really detrimental to the overall experience, though. But yes, if you're streaming your gameplay to each other, the frame rate is super, super choppy. Now, I don't think it's a bit distracting, but I don't think it actually impacts the core functionality. The the other thing, which is potentially problematic from a different perspective, as soon as they showed that camera on the Slack chat there, John went, "Uh-oh, that's not good." Shades of Uno on Xbox 360, right, John?
Yes, there's gonna be some wings coming out. There's gonna be some things happening in that world that I'm not sure Nintendo is ready to address just yet. I mean, be responsible with your Switch 2, gentlemen. Please, Oliver, Rich. We don't need another repeat of that 2007 era Xbox 360 camera experience.
How are they good? Because this has to be policed. You can't just.
They've never done this before. Like, they've had cameras, right? But I don't believe. Like, I think on the Wii U you could actually take things and post it to the wall, and they would censor that out, right?
Yeah.
But this, I can't think of any other Nintendo product that's had like a live camera feed in this way. So, but I guess the thing we also don't know is they showed this feature primarily with what seemed to be people that knew each other, suggesting they were in some kind of like group. So like,
okay, right, friends list.
Right. So, I mean, you could potentially get your junk out with your friends, but I'm not sure.
Embarrassing.
I'm not sure that the camera would necessarily work with just strangers. I mean, technically it could, but I feel like that might be the thing that Nintendo kind of gates. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because otherwise, oh boy.
What do you think of that, Oliver?
Well, that's certainly a very China has a very inventive mind here. No, I do think that will be a problem quite potentially. Yes. But I would expect, based on the way they've demoed it and based on their emphasis on like parental controls and these kinds of things that are a little bit more family friendly, that it wouldn't be the kind of feature where you're just playing with people in a multiplayer lobby and all of a sudden you're seeing people's faces and maybe some other things on camera. I wouldn't expect to see that necessarily. But there are some other aspects of this device that are interesting from a controller perspective. On handheld mode, you have that magnetic attachment. You have larger sticks, a bigger SL and SR buttons that should hopefully be more comfortable. You also have the mouse control feature. I don't think we need to go into too much detail there. They didn't really, but it seems interesting. And then in the Pro controller, they also have custom buttons on the back and some audio jack functionality, which is kind of interesting. It's also shaped a little bit more ergonomically. I kind of had mixed feelings about the paddles at first glance, but I actually think that they're pretty in line with the controller, so they should hopefully feel pretty much fine there, although I will probably disable them. And it's nice to have that audio jack functionality so you can get the, use headsets on the device when you're in TV play. That's quite a nice feature to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any thoughts on control? I mean, it looks like just a good evolution of the original, right, John?
Yeah, I mean, it's, don't break what works. And I would say the big thing for me that interests me is the magnetic attachment system. The way they described it suggests that it will be rather strong, actually. And one of my issues with the original Switch is that there was always just a little bit of wobble with that original rail system. You know what I mean? Nothing too egregious, but it was enough where it never felt quite as solid as you would have liked, at least for me. And this rail system conceivably could solve this while also just being kind of cool, if you know what I mean. Right? Like just that concept. I like that. The rest of the stuff, bigger sticks. Did they mention what the sticks are? Are they using, because, Joy-Con drift was a gigantic problem that was never solved on the Switch. So
I don't think they did, no.
No, exactly. I don't think they did. And maybe they're using some better, like, I don't know, Hall effect sticks that maybe managed to avoid this, or just engineer something completely different. I'm really not sure, and I don't think they've said, because Nintendo was very cagey about addressing that issue, right? Other than offering repair. So that's going to be one of those the jury is out things, right? We just got to wait and see.
Well, there's been legal action against those sticks, right? The original ones.
Good point.
So you would expect there to be some sort of mitigation in place to make sure it doesn't happen again.